So Juan, I guess there's so many things going on with President Trump in D.C. with these different aid packages. If you could just jump right in and tell us where we are with which ones.
Okay, so basically, the first relief package that came into effect was really looking at providing the medical equipment, making sure the tests were being made, giving the president authority to look or direct U.S. companies to manufacture what he needed, and then the second package then addressed more the women with young children and the unemployed and more the disadvantaged community across the United States, right? The third package, which is what's coming along now, it's really going to be the economic relief to the affected industries and private business as well as the local government. That's the big package that's about to come up. In the meantime, and I'd like to put this, it's every arrow in the president's economic quiver they are using right now. So you got the interest rate in the United States is below 1%. So it's technically almost zero. The Small Business Administration has been authorized to provide the low interest loans for all areas that have been adversely impacted by the coronavirus, and their definition for the coronavirus to be impacted is affect 5 local businesses in your state or territory, which we have now been availed to. And then his nationwide disaster declaration. President Trump has basically said that the entire United States is under a disaster declaration. Now it comes to the different states and territory to say, we have been impacted as part of the United States, and this is our impact. Can you declare us an area of national disaster? And that was the request that finally came out from Adelup maybe a day and a half ago. So that's more or less where we are. Once that disaster declaration is agreed on by the president, which I have, I'm completely comfortable that he will and will do shortly, then Guam will be able to avail themselves from the FEMA relief and FEMA efforts to also assist the local businesses and community in a more expansive way or manner.
Right, and so people out there who are maybe wondering, aren't we already in a disaster declaration? No, that was a public health emergency that was declared, right?
Right, and you need to look at what's going to be what are local decisions for the local in allowing her to use local powers, and which are federal determinations, and that once those are approved by the president or the administration, then those will provide the local government additional powers and authorities. So, for example, as we've seen in prior typhoons, once the federal government declares a national disaster declaration or accepts a national disaster declaration from the governor, then they'll determine what the matching is. So normally 75-25 is the regular matching. I would assume, because I have not seen the governor's declaration request, that she would be asking for a waiving of any matching. Because I don't know any other part of the United States that has been hit harder by this coronavirus than we have when you look at a proportion of the economy that has been impacted.
Yeah, I was just reading the press release from the Small Business Administration and how they're going to be offering disaster assistance to the Guam small businesses, and it actually does say that that the governor declared a disaster. They received a request from her on the 19th, and so this disaster declaration makes the SBA assistance available to Guam. But
That was the one that was exclusively regarding to SBA.
I
That was
see.
the one that all you needed to prove was that 5 local businesses had been impacted.
Okay, so now we're just waiting for the official one.
No, then she just submitted I think on the 21st, but I might be wrong. It might be the 22nd. She submitted the request for Guam to be declared a national disaster with regards to FEMA.
Okay, so yeah, there's a letter on the 21st that she sent to Congressman Michael Nicholas. Is this a different? It says she would be requesting in the coming days a major disaster declaration for Guam.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand. What we haven't requested it earlier. They did state in the press release that they were looking at the fact to see how New York did.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really don't care about how New York did or is not doing. I really think that we are worse. The impact here is substantially more than it's been in New York. And that's my personal point of view. So. I would have requested this immediately, but I'm glad that it's been done.
Right,
We'll
and
support that request.
Juan,
Wait,
that was
so
kind
you've
of
heard
the,
that it has been done? Because I'm this letter, because we didn't get a press release. I don't think I've seen anything that a major disaster declaration was declared, other than this letter to Congressman Nicholas that in the coming days she would be requesting for a major disaster declaration. So you're aware that she has?
I've been informed that she sent the request out.
Okay.
I have not seen the request.
Okay.
I have not been provided a copy to the request.
Okay.
But I can tell you that the Republican Party is wholeheartedly supporting the request declaration. It's we need it, and we needed it yesterday. So
Right.
Well, there is a 10:30 press conference with the governor's office, so
maybe they'll be announcing that one. And that was kind of the gist of there was a back and forth with the congressman and the governor's office. The congressman said, hey, what are you doing? Declare this major disaster. And then the reply from the governor's office was, we're already working on it, Mike.
Yeah.
And
so you're saying now that request has been submitted. And maybe we'll get more info on that within the hour, Juan.
Yeah, and if they did submit it, my hope is that they're getting they'll announce that they've been declared. I know the White House has been waiting for it.
Right.
And I think that they're going to look at it expeditiously and favorably. Again, I'm also hoping that they would have asked for 100% federal funds for this declaration. So we stand ready to assist and help. In this one, I've said it before. There's no politics involved anymore. We are a major disaster. This is as bad as I've seen the economy in this island since I've been living here, and I think we need to try to figure out as much help as we can get from the federal government. We should go for it now. The second part is the Republican Party is working with the Guam Chamber of Commerce and at this point Congressman Nicholas. We've invited and the Guam Republican legislatures into trying to make sure that whatever package comes out as a third major package not only includes the territories but treats it the same way that they treat the rest of the United States. It is tremendously important that the local businesses are able to avail themselves of this, now that we're talking about $2 trillion package, so that they can survive. That is going to be our main focus, is trying to make sure that we help get that done. And then on the local front is trying to figure out what local issues can be achieved or done to make sure we minimize the impact that the local businesses are receiving right now with the closures.
Well, that's a lot to unpack there, Juan. I mean, crystal ball maybe a little bit, but when are we going to see checks in the hands of the residents of Guam?
Well, that's part of the third package. So that one you got to wait for that package to be finalized. But for me, right now, it's really not just we need anything we can get.
Right.
So $1,200 or $2,000 check, which is what they're discussing right now. It's what the size of that check per individual. Last time I looked at it, last version I saw was $1,200 for anybody that makes less than $75,000 a year, and $500 per children. In addition to that, so now if you earn more than that, then that amount was diminished. That's still being worked on right now in Congress. But what I'm more concerned is that when you look at the original second bill, that package that just came in for the more disadvantaged, it really focused on state-run unemployment insurance and programs, and Guam doesn't have one. So as that piece of legislation passed, that section, Guam's not going to get anything. So I'm sort of wanting to make sure, and we're working very closely with the Guam Chamber of Commerce, is that the language that comes in the next bill, we need to make sure that it includes Guam and Guam businesses in it. We're going to look at what we can do to get maybe a waiver on that state-run unemployment insurance fund, but it's a little problematic because the way that it was structured is they're going to give you funds for the difference on the unemployment rate that the state program had last year compared to this year. Well, if we don't have a program, there's nothing to compare it with, right?
Well, so who's that going to be? Is that going to fall on Republicans, boots on the ground in D.C., or is this something that you guys are folding our congressman into?
We're doing both. I actually think I would like to include the governor and everybody in this, and the Democratic legislature with the Republicans. You know, we're in the throes of a major disaster. I expect that March 30th, we're going to extend our stay-at-home and business closure requirement. That's what I'm seeing when I look at the tea leaves moving along in the island. And we can look at this as this is going to end March 30th. We're in for the long haul. We need to make sure that we survive it or minimize the impact on the community. On what's going to happen, and I think the only way we do that is by all of us working together and cooperating with each other. And by the way, you guys have done an amazing job in getting the messages of what's going on. One of my frustration right now is I think there should be more visibility on who has been found positive with this coronavirus. So the local community can help in minimize that contact or that continued spread of the problem.
And we're kind of switching gears here, Juan, maybe a little more local, but you're not alone in that. The media across, mayors. I mean, not just KUAM, all the media, mayors, residents, and doctors have all written letters to the administration, basically saying, "Hey, what's up? We're not getting the info we need to get to arm the public and to go out here and help avoid the spread."
Or even knew about home isolation. Some of the doctors didn't even know.
Right, and so then we hear, that was, I think, Friday. That was kind of what everyone was talking about, and then we find out Sunday that the mayor of the village where the Hafa Bingo Hall, which is, I don't know if we could call it ground zero of COVID-19.
No.
Yeah, but so there were 2 positive patients who went to this bingo hall, and you come to find out the mayor of the village where this bingo hall's at didn't get the memo. They never got a call, found out through the media, and even, waking her up this morning, granted it was a little early, she still had not, been contacted by public health. We hope that has changed. We talked to Crystal Pacos in Augustine, and she said that, yeah, they do need to do better in involving the mayor, so.
Yeah, well, for me, it's sort of simple, right? If we're able to know who has tested positive for the virus, then it's easy for in the village and the community to be able to talk to each other and say, "Hey, you were with Mary on Wednesday and Thursday when you were at the bingo parlor. Can you make sure that you keep yourself away from your children?" I might have been in contact with somebody that has the virus that the government knows, And I'm in contact with my son and my daughter and my wife. And I would like to know if I should be quarantining myself and not be near them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the mayors have told us in doing these trace investigations. They're asking people, have you ever had contact with anybody who tested positive? Well, how can I know when you're not telling us? Like, I wouldn't know if I had contact with somebody who tested positive.
Yeah. And there's a lot of privacy requirements for the population, but I am convinced that if you ask the people that have tested positive, if they would allow for their name to be released, they would be the first one that would say yes. They would say, absolutely, I want my friends and family know that they're in danger.
Right. And the president just had this national press conference, and we're looking at our Facebook comments, and someone had commented that, what he announced members of Congress who have tested positive for this virus. So, there goes the HIPAA defense, I guess.
Yeah. In the case of the congressman, he publicly announced that he had been.
Right.
He did. And, but again, that's knowing Guam and the people from Guam. If you ask any of these patients that are local, hey, would you be okay with us releasing your name so anybody that might have been in contact with you can realize that they might be a carrier? I can guarantee you that every single one of them would say yes.
Yeah, and hey, I want to put out the call. If you have tested positive for COVID-19, maybe you should call us. Maybe you should reach out and share your story and share why you think it's important for people to stay the hell away from you, All right, Juan. Anything in closing you want to add that you or your party's working on?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a letter of support for the disaster declaration for FEMA. We are working closely with the Chamber of Commerce to try to see if we can coordinate small business SBA training on filling out these applications, and maybe do that as an online effort so that a lot of our small business owners feel more comfortable on how they need to fill these applications and get this low interest loans. I think they're at 3.5%, that will allow them to maybe manage the health of their company a little better as we move through these forced closures that they're facing.
Juan, you mentioned that you anticipate the March 30th deadline being extended. Have you guys maybe in the chamber, I don't know which hat you're wearing, if people have reached out to you and basically told you that, yeah, that's a done deal? Or are you just guessing?
No, that's just personally. That's just me reading the tea leaves. If the purpose of the quarantine is to make sure that we address the continued spread, and the spread lasts normally for 14 days, and they just found 12 new cases yesterday, you need to assume, why would you break the quarantine before that period expires?
Right. Yeah. Okay, Juan. Well, be safe. Wash your hands.
Thanks, Juan.
I do it all the time.
I've noticed you have very clean hands. Thank you, Juan Carlos.
Take care, Juan.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Juan Carlos Benitez from the GOP. He's up there in the Republican Party in Guam. Is he like the executive something or other?
Something or other.
He's calling the shots. He's in a position to know.
Or another,
right?
State chairperson or something.
All right, so 926. Yeah, basically, if you're trying to figure out where we are with the aid, when you're going to get the checks, they're still working on it, okay? And we'll get you that info as soon as we get it. What are you looking at there, Bree?
I'm just looking down.
I thought you were looking at this.
Wow, what a week. And we're heading into week 2. So
we are.
Trying to gather my thoughts here.
There's some numbers. If you guys are having anxiety or, and I shared with you guys, I kind of went through this the other morning. It was actually on the way home and then into the next morning. I'm just overwhelmed so much. And, being in the media, we hear so much.